Today we're going to be cleaning and servicing this Bionare fan. This is a triple window fan, and since I will finally have a use case for this, I need to get this cleaned up and ready to go. So it runs okay as it is, but it's definitely seen some hours of use. So I want to clean it up and then lubricate it so that it's ready to go for the rest of the year. So I'm not really sure what kind of unpleasant surprises lurk beneath the surface here as far as what this accordion panel goes. I certainly hope it's nothing like the stupid design of this Holmes fans, but I don't really know what to expect. I've never been inside one of these before, so let's see what we got here. Looks like we have a bunch of screws on the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's get those out. Okay, well, something just transpired that I would rather not have happened. And as soon as I get this last screw out, I will show what transpired. This just came out, and this has something to do with the accordion panel, so not good. The good news is that this seems to come apart much more easily than the Holmes unit does. So we'll set that aside now for the cleaning. And it looks like this wasn't as bad as I thought. It looks like this piece just sits right in here, and that seems to make it operate. Yeah, that's working fine. So that's fairly simple, and much easier to take apart than the Holmes one. So that's good news. Very, very good news. And that's about where the good news stops, because now we have these stupid things on there. I hate those things. This should be tapped and have a nut on there, but no, we have to use these deranged things that are very difficult to get off and even more difficult to put back on. So let's see what we can do here. Usually the best thing to do is to start where the flat side is and just gently pry it out like that, and then try to push it up the rest of the way if possible. If you preserve these well enough, you can reuse them, but they're not meant to be, and so they're very difficult to work with. This one's coming off okay. There we go. So that one came off well enough to reuse, so hopefully we can do that for all of them. I said hopefully we can do that for all of them. There we go. Well, this one's listening now. Alright, one left to go. Okay, that could have been disastrous, but I found it. So that's that. That wasn't too bad. So now all those things are off. Now let's see if the blades themselves are interested in coming off. Yeah, I guess so. It was too bad. That was easy. And this one's kind of stuck on there a little bit. There we go. Okay. So all the blades are off, so now we can set those aside for cleaning. Now the shafts on here are pretty dirty. There's a good amount of rust on a couple of them. Like this one here, see all that rust on there? That's not going to work when we clean it, when we try to take it apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the thing on. And I'm going to use some sanding paper and we're going to clean the shaft off. Okay, we've got all of them running now. I guess I could have done it one at a time, but whatever. And there's not too much rust here, so we just kind of have to go along like this. Make sure we got a nice, clean, smooth surface to work with. And you'll see the surface will turn shiny as you go through here. Alright, that looks pretty good. They're all cleaned off now. The rust on the flat side isn't a big deal because the bearing surface won't scrape that as you remove it. Okay, so now we're going to remove the motor covers. Okay, and we have revealed some pretty decent motors, which they kind of look like basic shaded pole motors to me. Maybe we got a capacitor in here. Let's take a look. Power draw would certainly lead me to believe that these are PSC. Well, I don't feel like opening this up. Well, actually, if it'll come up pretty easily, I'll open it up. Let's see. It may. Yep, there is a capacitor in there. It's not notated. What's the microfarads? It's not saying. It just says 250 volts. There's probably a spec sheet somewhere that could tell me what the microfarads is on that capacitor. But I don't know. It's not particularly obvious what it is. And here comes the instant regret of taking this off. I knew this was going to be more trouble than it was worth. Oh, I knew it. Don't mess with stuff that works. Don't mess with stuff you don't have to. All it does is create a headache. Alright, we're back together there. I didn't get the temperature sensor in there correctly. Seems to just sit in there like that. Alright, so that's over with. Now let's proceed with removing the motors. Looks like the wiring is already free to come out. There's some anomalies. We've got a loop there, a little connector here. These come right out. So this is a surprisingly serviceable machine. Pleasantly surprisingly serviceable. I was not expecting that, especially considering how difficult those simple little Holmes fans are. Wow, that's great. Very easy. Now we're going to service these motors. There's not too much to do here other than to oil them. And it looks like they'll come off with these two front screws. Okay, well the rotor is getting stuck. Doesn't want to come out the front, so we can push it out the back. Nope, it doesn't want to come out the back either. I guess it doesn't really matter because we're able to get both bearings off, so we can service the bearings and we have access to everything that we need to have access to. Now, we don't want to mess up the orientation of the motor. For instance, if you were to turn it this way and then put it back together, it would run in reverse. So we want to pay attention to the orientation of the way that this comes apart. Everything here is already pretty clean, but we'll just go ahead and clean it real quick anyways, because it's not going to do any harm. So I just take a ticker towel and clean out the inside of this bearing. Absolutely nothing came out of there. Let's take a look at the shaft here. There's really no dirt to speak of on there. Sometimes you get old, dried up lubricant on here, especially if the motor is in like a seized up condition. But it looks like everything is clean. Yeah, we didn't really get any dirt out of there whatsoever, so there's no point in cleaning all three of them because they're not dirty. So we're going to take this oil. This is zooming spout oil. This is a good oil to use. It is specifically for electric motors. You can also use the blue can 3-in-1, which is also for Fians. I would not use the red can, which is for saw blades and wrenches. It's not for Fians. So this is not the correct one. This is the correct one. Or this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to put oil in and around here. There's a wicking material that will hold the oil, and it'll seep through the bearing during operation as needed. So we're going to put a couple drops of oil in between here, and it should kind of soak in a little bit, which it is. So I'll give it a couple drops to seep in, and it should be good enough for that. It did take quite a bit, so that was definitely dry. It looks like that should be good enough. And then we'll do the same on the front here. And this is very dry. This is taking in more than I expected it to. Okay, now we'll put it back together. I'm going to take just one small drop of oil and put it directly on the shaft so that it lubricates right as it goes into the bearing. Same on the front. These screws don't have to go very tight. They were abnormally loose when I took them off. I just go hand tight, you know, like maybe 2-finger tight, you know, like that. And that's good enough. Even this here is going to be more important than tightness. Now it may be locked up when you first do is take a screwdriver and strike the shaft a couple times, move it around in and out, and it should free right up. Okay, so that's good for that. You can see this now spinning a little bit more freely compared to this one, which stops pretty fast. So now we'll go through the other two, we'll do the same thing. Pretty sure this is still clean like the other one was, but we'll check it just in case it's not clean for some reason. No, it's pretty much clean. Thrust washer came off of this one. We'll put that back onto the shaft. Geez, this is exceptionally dry. Usually 2 or 3 drops will do it, but this is really absorbing a lot of oil. Alright, that's the motors ready to go. Now we can reassemble everything. It's cleaned up okay. A little bit tricky with the guards. All the ones that are like this with the plastic, they're kind of difficult to clean up, and they're not perfect, but it's good enough. It's just going to get dirty again anyways. Okay, so these all just kind of sat down in here like this. They came out pretty easily, and it looks like they're gonna go back in pretty easily too. Pretty painless so far. Let's see how things keep going. These are going into plastic threads, so proceed with care. I think that's screwed into something, but I can't remember what. There's an extra screw here, and it looks like... Oh, you know what? It doesn't even need to come undone. That just screws into itself. That's a nice strain relief that's very easily used and reused. I don't know what the point of all this plastic, these plastic shields is. They don't seem like they really serve any purpose. I'm almost inclined to leave them off, because it seems like they would just cause a lot of heat buildup in the motors. I wonder if it's just some kind of like aerodynamics thing. It did keep the motors pretty clean though. No, I guess it's got an air hole there. I guess we'll just put them back. There's a flat part of the blades up at the top. There's a flat part on the shaft that needs to align. They're all spinning nicely now. Very good. Now we got these stupid things to deal with. The part that I bent up before, I'm going to try to put back in the same place, which was against the flat side of the shaft. What I'll do now is I'll just try to bend it back a little bit. It's never going to be perfect, but just kind of push this back down a little bit. And that's really all that you need to do. I mean, these are small fans. There's not going to be a whole lot of force coming out of there. The blades probably wouldn't even come off if these weren't there. So I'm not concerned about it in the slightest. Okay. Now we had this mechanism here. I'm trying to recall how this went on. That, and this first one here, that first lot has to go into there. Okay, that appears to be working correctly. And then these things, they slip in like this. With this part facing the track. That's a much better system than those stupid Holmes fans have. This is far easier to work with. It's actually possible to take it apart and put it back together without breaking the whole thing. Working correctly. Plastic threads, use caution. Okay. So that's that. Let's go ahead and turn the thing on, and hopefully it still works. I don't really see any reason why it wouldn't, but stranger things have happened. Okay, it's running. It's working good, moving a lot of air pretty quietly. Really is impressive how much air comes out of these VMs. And the noise level is quite good as well. Alright, looks like we are fully operational. And the bearings are certainly much happier now than they were before.